Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 365 of the podcast. I might have labeled that wrong. It might be 364. I don't know. I got to go back and check. In any case, you're listening to MMA on the Rocks. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Thursday, September 19th. Usually this is the day for the picks and pours episodes, but there's no UFC this weekend, and Matt the Mechanic's a little under the weather. So, we're not doing picks and pours. So there's no picks, and I haven't poured anything because, it's a weeknight, trying to cut back, trying to be a little healthier, I'm getting up there, guys. I got to start being a little more health conscious, I think. So in any case, big combat sports weekend last weekend. I went out to Hollywood, Florida to BKFC 66, which was an awesome time until the main event happened. And my good buddy, Ryan Reber, who you may have heard on the show a few weeks ago, took a knockout loss 56 seconds into the first round. And this guy he fought for the title, Alberto Blas, is an absolute murderer. I'm not going to suggest to you that they did like some genetic experiments on him in Cuba like they did with Yoel Romero, but let's just say if we found out that they did, I wouldn't be surprised. This kid's an absolute monster. He's the champ for a reason. His longest fight now is 1 minute and 12 seconds after 12 fights in the BKFC. But this was only Ryan's first loss. And, I know he took it hard, but he's not hurt. And, he'll be back in the gym in no time. And he's just going to get right back in the saddle and hopefully work his way back to another title shot sometime soon. So that sucks. It always, it's an awesome feeling when you get to see your friends win, especially at a high level. And it's a shitty feeling when you have to see them lose, especially in devastating fashion. So that was hard. It was hard for me to watch. I hung out for a little while afterwards, and I got to talk to him for a minute. Got to meet his family. They all seem like awesome people. So it's a tough thing to deal with, especially when you've trained with people and you know them personally. But that's the fight game, folks. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. There are very few draws in this world. Let's see. The co-main event was excellent. Howard Davis really impressed me. He's on a 2-fight win streak now. He gets Brown out of there. I think it was the first round. I'm still trying to pull up the results here. The website's a little hard to navigate here. Yeah, it doesn't say. Yeah, first round. So this one was a 3 knockdown rule. So he knocked him down 3 times in the first round. It only took him 14 punches to get James Brown out of there. Not James Brown, the singer. Let's be clear. Someone else who impressed me, I believe this guy's a heavyweight. Let me pull him up real quick. Leonardo Perdomo. This was another first round knockout. Absolutely devastating. Again, 14 punches to get the job done in the first round. That was like the theme of the night, I guess. That's the magic number. Yeah, 263 pounds. And the guy he fought, Steve Banks, was 290. So there's a different weight limit in bare knuckle than there is in MMA. But overall, it was a great night. I got to catch up with some friends that I don't get to see that often. I had to drive all the way to the other coast to see people who kind of live right nearby. But I just don't have the opportunity to see him that often. Like the BKFC middleweight champion, Dave the Redneck Mondell, is going to be fighting October 12th in Spain. He was supposed to co-headline this card in Hollywood, Florida, but his opponent, King Mo Lawal, pulled out. So now he accepted a fight against Danny Christie with Dave's middleweight title on the line in just a few weeks here. So we're going to have to get Dave on and talk to him. I got to catch up with him a little bit at the show. I got to talk to JR the Lion Ridge, good buddy of mine and commentating partner with me for Sunset Fight Promotions. So yeah, I got to talk to him, former title challenger as well in the BKFC. He's looking to fight again in November, December, somewhere in that time frame. And the BKFC also announced they're going to be doing an event in the Philippines. So I know JR really wants to get on that card, being of Filipino descent. So, hopefully they get him over there to headline that one. That would be awesome. So yeah, I got to catch up with some friends and made some new connections as well. It was a fun trip overall. I like going to casinos. I don't gamble at all. I didn't spend a dime in the casino. I just like going for the people watching, and being in a casino after a bare knuckle boxing event has taken place is people watching to the next level. Just a lot of interesting characters walking around. No real stories to tell or anything. Just observing humanity in its most primal form. Let's say that. Yeah, so it was a good time. Got rushed back here on Saturday. Wound up getting stuck in traffic because the highway was closed for some reason. It just kind of abruptly closed. Sat in traffic for about an hour and a half. So it took me a little over 6 hours to get back here to the Tampa Bay area. Not that fun, but I was listening to a cool audiobook. I was listening to Scar Tissue, which is the autobiography of Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And man, I had no idea. I knew the guy was wild, but I had no clue to what extent. I mean, before the band got popular, this guy was just injecting all kinds of drugs into himself and sharing needles, and probably should have died like 4 or 5 times. He was homeless. He was just like a drifter. I had no idea. Of course, Anthony Kiedis, also a big fan of the UFC. He attends a lot of the big pay-per-views. But yeah, I'm a little over halfway through the book, and I'm like, man, this guy's had a fucked up life. Some of us think we might have had it a little hard, gone through some rough times, but I've definitely never been homeless and like sharing needles with anybody. I've never hit that level. So I guess I've been pretty fortunate to live the life I've lived. Speaking of good fortune, we'll talk about UFC 306 a little bit. So Merab Dvalishvili gets it done against Sean O'Malley in the main event. What do you guys think about that card? And in the main event, I mean, Dana White kind of shit on the main event and the co-main event a little bit. I'll be honest with you guys, and this is no disrespect to the fighters. This was just me having a really long weekend and having, travel and spending a lot of time in the car and just being up early, being up late, waking up early, going to bed late. I fell asleep like right before the main event. So I didn't have a chance to be disappointed with it. But Merab goes out there and did what Merab does, man. He mixed up the striking and, of course, got his takedowns. I think he scored 6 takedowns on O'Malley and just frustrated him. O'Malley kind of rallied at the end, which, shows much improved cardio on his end. So that's a good sign going forward. He has declared himself the winner in the fight and says that he won, I guess, 3 out of the 5 rounds. So he's declaring himself the winner and called out Umar Nurmagomedov to defend his title. I like that fight. I like Umar and O'Malley, and it's interesting that O'Malley wants to fight him right after Merab. Like, after just getting mauled by a grappler, to get in there with a guy who could do the exact same thing to him, that takes guts. And Umar a little bit more of a submission threat than Merab. So it's interesting that O'Malley would call that out. And let's see, how many wins does Umar have in the UFC? I'm curious. I don't like the way the UFC lays out guys' records at all. So we're gonna have to go to SureDog here, pull up his record. Do you guys think that Umar should get the title shot coming off of that win over Corey Sandhagen, who, Corey was the number 2 guy, I guess. So now Umar's in that number 2 spot. Merab seems to want to fight Davison Figueiredo. To be honest, I think Figueiredo deserves it as well. All right, so let's see. Umar has, let's break this down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins in the UFC. Merab had to go on a 10-fight win streak to get his title shot. Davison Figueiredo is a former champion, moved up to bantamweight, and now he's won 3 in a row over some pretty impressive names. So, I don't know, man. If the champ gets to call his own shots, and a lot of people are going to say that Umar is the more dangerous fight. I'm not so sure, man. After seeing what Figueiredo did to Rob Font, Cody Garbrandt, and Marlon Vera, I mean, he's really shown, I think, that he's found his true weight class, and he's a dangerous dude, man. I mean, I think he was the first person to ever submit Cody Garbrandt. He manhandled Marlon Vera. And they only have him ranked 5th. If you don't do, all right, if you do Umar against Merab for the title, then what do you do with Figueiredo? Do you do Figueiredo and Sandhagen? Because that's a fun fight. Do you do Figueiredo and Peter Yan? That's an interesting one too. You definitely have a lot of things you could do. Henry Cejudo is still in the rankings, so I guess he'll be an option. I don't know if he's gonna compete again, since he was kind of retired and then, came off the bench to get in there and try and mix it up, a division up, and work towards the title. But tell me in the comments and or tag me in social media or send me a DM. Who do you think should get the next title shot at bantamweight? Do you think it should be a rematch for O'Malley? I don't. That would be, if the 3 choices are O'Malley, Umar, and Figueiredo, O'Malley's my last choice. I don't need to see that rematch. My first choice is Figueiredo. I'd like to see Figueiredo and Merab go for the title, and then maybe we do Umar and Peter Yan, or just let Umar wait to fight the winner of that. I think Umar would dismantle Peter Yan. I don't think it would even be close. So I'm not that interested in that fight. What did you guys think about the whole Sphere experience? I'm sure it was amazing if you were there in person, and I know John Anik is a big advocate of them doing this once a year. I'm personally against it. Like, yeah, the graphics look really cool, but I mean, I was watching the fights on a laptop, so it didn't really pop for me. It didn't really resonate with me. The graphics behind the fighters were cool. The little mini documentaries were cool, but I don't think this is something we need to do again. And here's my biggest point of contention with it. I really feel like it takes something away from the true fans. You know, it, I know people personally. Matt the Mechanic has been a fan of the UFC for a long time, has never been to a live event. And if they keep doing events like this, where the tickets are three, four, five, $10,000, you're not giving the regular fans the opportunity to go to a live event. There's already so many events at the Apex, so people don't have the opportunity to buy a ticket for that. Now the UFC spent so much money on this. Does that mean they're going to be, raising ticket prices going forward? Because they lost so much money on production for this Noche card. Our pay-per-view price is going to go up. They're already crazy expensive, damn near $90 for a pay-per-view, you know? And I know their thought is, and Dana White has always said, you invite a couple buddies over, order some pizza, order some beer, everybody splits it. Yeah, but, you know, even if you have 4 people over, that's almost $20 a person plus food. And, if you're in a situation like I am, like if you have kids, you can't be having people over your house late at night every other Saturday, twice a month or once a month, whenever the pay-per-views come up. So it's getting increasingly expensive to be a fan of this sport. And I guess that's true with a lot of sports. It's expensive to go to live events, which is a shame because, I had a lot of great experiences growing up. I grew up near the Bronx in New York, and even though that's where I grew up and my family was Yankees fans, my dad would bring me out to Shea Stadium to watch the Mets play because you could get some cheap tickets up in the nosebleeds, and then not a lot of people would show up to watch the Mets. So we'd get to move down close and, you know, not break the bank. I used to like going to minor league hockey when I was in college. You get tickets for $8 right up against the glass, front row. So I used to go to a bunch of those all the time. And minor league hockey is a lot more entertaining than professional hockey, I think, because they're a lot more aggressive. They're hungrier. But nowadays, if you have a young family, you want to go out to a sporting event, it costs so much money. So that's kind of my problem with the Sphere thing is now they spent so much more on the production. Are we going to see residual effects from that? Because if they take a loss, they're going to try and make that money back. I'm sure they made a ton of money on the event, but they're going to try and compensate for that a little bit. Maybe they increase the ticket prices for the next event a little bit. And I think it's not right to do to the people who are really fans of the sport. You're kind of limiting the live attendance to people who maybe aren't as big of fans, but people who have disposable income to drop a few grand and go out for a night to watch some fights. But I would think that a vast majority of the MMA fans aren't in that boat where they could just, yeah, I'll drop, 10 or 15 grand for a night out to go watch some fights. So that's my 2 cents. I'm sure the Sphere thing was incredible if you were there in person. I understand why Anik and Rogan and Cormier were hyping it up so much and saying how it was so cool. But what they need to understand is it's not something that the average fan will ever be able to experience. So for that reason, I'm against it for what it's worth. All right. Valentina Shevchenko reclaiming her flyweight title against Alexa Grasso. I mean, she had the game plan to get the job done. Her wrestling looked great. There was a couple of submission attempts from Alexa Grasso, but none of them were really close. I remember there was one specifically, I think the second round maybe, where she attempted an armbar and Joe Rogan was saying it was really close, but Valentina's elbow was already cleared. I think there was maybe one submission attempt that was kind of tight, but Shevchenko is showing why she's definitely top 5 female fighter of all time. Definitely. You couldn't convince me she's not. She may damn well be number 1. She had the 2 fights with Amanda Nunes. One of them I thought she won. The judges thought otherwise. And the other one, she lost 2 rounds, but then was beating up Amanda in that 3rd round. If it had been a 5-round fight, she definitely would have gotten her hand raised, I think. Just an incredible talent. And I mean, she came up as a striker, was known for her striking, won this title fight with wrestling, right? So impressive performance by the Bullet at UFC 306 here. All right, Diego Lopez and Brian Ortega. We finally got to see this fight come together, and Diego Lopez just put a beating on Brian Ortega. And Ortega didn't look like himself coming into this one. I think he even said in a couple of interviews that he had some things going on and, hasn't really been focused on training. Diego Lopez is not the guy you want to be in there with when you're not fully prepared. Because I think even if Ortega had come in with a full great camp and had come in looking in peak physical condition, I still think he would have had a hard time with Diego Lopez. Man, he almost knocked him out a few times. I gave Lopez 10-8s in the first and the third. So on my scorecard, it would have been 30-25 for Diego Lopez. And this guy is awesome, man. He's got the look. New rankings are out. He's moved up 10 spots. And he's ranked number 3. I think, you could definitely justify giving him the title shot against the winner of Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria, which is coming up next month. You could definitely do that, or you could do Diego Lopez and Volkanovski. If you're not going to let Volkanovski back near the title, and if Volkanovski's not going to fight back up at 155, then, that's an interesting fight. That's a really interesting fight, actually. Hell, do Diego Lopez and Volkanovski for an interim title. Who cares? You're just giving those things out anyway. Why don't we do that? That could headline a card. That could headline a card in several different countries. It could headline in Australia. It could headline in Mexico. It could headline in Brazil. So, interesting. I'm really interested to see what's going to go down. They're probably going to wait until after the Topuria Holloway fight to decide what they're going to do with Diego Lopez. He said he wants a title shot. It's hard to argue with him. So there's that. Well, let's talk about the fight of the night. Esteban Ribovics and Daniel Zellhuber. Split decision here. Some people thought, Zellhuber could have gotten it, could have gotten his hand raised. But Ribovics, man, was tough, and he was hitting Zellhuber with everything in the kitchen sink in that 3rd round. Damn near put him away. I love the way Zellhuber fights. I like everything about this kid. He definitely has that star quality about him, but I would like to see him use his length just a little bit more. He started getting into those wild exchanges with Ribovics, those brawling exchanges, and he didn't need to do that. He's so long, he could have just used his jab to stay on the outside, used his push kick to keep him away a little bit. Um, but he's still a young kid, and I think he's got a really bright future, and I think he's going to learn how to use that range a little bit better. And once he figures that out, he's going to be a problem in this lightweight division. So what's next for these guys? Who are we giving Ribovics to next? Is he ready for a top 15? I'd say so after that performance. We doing Ribovics and Paddy Pimblett? I don't know. I can probably get down with that one. We doing Ribovics and Renato Moicano? That's another interesting one. Man, you know what? I wouldn't even mind seeing Zellhuber and Paddy Pimblett. Maybe not right now. Zellhuber would probably have to bounce back and get a win, but I think that's an interesting fight. All right. We got John Dong in the chat here. What's up, John? Hope you're having a good night. And we got our old friend Rick Allen here, who says, the only reason Mike Chandler is fighting again is because his wife cracked the whip and forced him back to work. That may very well be true. I'd have a hard time even arguing against this point. He's held out for Conor McGregor for so long. He probably got sick of just waiting around too. Obviously, Conor's not interested in fighting. He's just kind of dragging this thing out. I did see Conor McGregor at the BKFC Friday night, and I didn't even get that close to him, to tell you the truth. But I could tell from where I was sitting that, he was on some substances that may not necessarily be legal. And I'll just be blunt about it. He looked coked up, and there were some clips going around the internet afterwards of him in a press conference with Dave Feldman, and he was like licking his teeth and showing some signs that he was on the forged Irish powder. So, yeah, I don't think Conor has intentions of fighting at all, and if so, not anytime soon. And I mean, why would he? He doesn't have to. So, yeah, Chandler finally got the hint, or maybe you're right, Rick. Maybe his wife, forced her hand and was like, "Listen, you gotta, you're not getting any younger here, Mike. You better just get back in there." So now he's gonna go in there and try and redeem his loss against Charles Oliveira, and that's an interesting fight too. Personally, I'm not interested in seeing Conor McGregor fight, and a lot of it is this boy who cried wolf kind of game that's been going on, where they announced dates, and they did the Ultimate Fighter, and it's been too long now. I'm just not interested anymore. So, in any case, Rick also says, still being an incorrigible, raging alcoholic these days, bro. Well, I've never been raging. Incorrigible, I guess. Yeah, I'm still that. And alcoholic, well, that's just a word that boring people invented to describe fun people. Let's see. John says, if there was a fighter with Yair Rodriguez's striking and Brian Ortega's grappling, how would they do against Diego Lopez and Ilia Topuria? I mean, if you looked at the way Diego Lopez fought Brian Ortega, I mean, he had definitely comparable grappling and outstruck him more than Yair Rodriguez did. So, even though Rodriguez almost knocked him out in the first round of their fight as well, and yeah, Ortega twisted his ankle. There was a lot going on there. Uh, I just, man, Diego Lopez is the real deal, man. That guy is so skilled. I'll look forward to his next fight, no matter who it's against. And I would say by the end of 2025, we're going to see that kid fight for a title. I'll go ahead and make that prediction. I'm just going to touch on a few more things because you guys probably had enough UFC 306 breakdown, but I just want to touch on the Norma Dumont and Irene Aldana. That Aldana cut was, I'd say, by far the worst cut I've ever seen. I mean, she's not even going to look like the same person after this. If anybody saw the new Beetlejuice, and I don't want to spoil it or anything, but I took my family and I went to see it on Sunday. Excellent movie. If you haven't seen it yet, it was awesome. It had all the nostalgia. It was very dark. Michael Keaton, amazing. Of course, the guy's good in everything he does. But there's a new character in this one who she's a soul sucker, so she can actually kill the dead, and she kind of gets reanimated at the beginning of the film, and her face was torn open in half, and she had put staples in it to put herself back together, and that's kind of what Irene Aldana looked like after Saturday night. And that cut was just absolutely gruesome, and it's unfortunate. It was caused by, unintentional things that happened, but man, that cut was a spectacle. It was, especially the after, when all the swelling came up. Yeah, it looked horrible. And I hope she probably needed a lot of painkillers injected into her face, but hopefully she's okay. And hopefully she still looks like herself after that, because man, her whole face was ripped open. You could see her skull. It was horrific. But yeah, great performance by Norma Dumont. I mean, she's a tough cookie. That's for sure. I'm not going to touch on anything else here. I mean, you guys have probably already listened to a bunch of podcasts breaking down UFC 306. You don't need to hear my 2 cents on it. No fight card this weekend, but the week after, September 28th, I'm excited for this one. Renato Moicano and Benoit Saint-Denis in the main event. I'm actually going to be doing play-by-play commentary for Sunset Fight Promotions, local Muay Thai fight promotion here in the Tampa Bay area. I'm excited about that. I'm bummed I'm going to be missing, some of this card, but hopefully I can, right when I'm done doing commentary, I could shoot over to a bar or something, or just rush home real quick to try and catch this card, because I'm really excited for this main event. That's a great fight. Benoit Saint-Denis, of course, coming off that loss to Dustin Poirier, and Moicano has been on a hot streak lately since moving up in weight. Brad Riddell, Drew Dober, and Jalen Turner are all the scalps he's claimed in his last 3 fights. So yeah, this is a really interesting one. It's going to be, I'm curious to see how Benoit Saint-Denis bounces back from that loss, because this guy is an absolute killer. And of course, my buddy and good friend of the show, Matt Steamroller Frivola, is going to be on this card. He'll be in there with Fares Ziam. So, of course, I'll be rooting for my buddy, the Steamroller. And I'll bet any amount of money that Matt the Mechanic is going to pick Steamroller to win next week, because, loyalty outweighs betting odds. But yeah, this is a great card. I may actually be more excited for this card than I was for UFC 306 going into it. Nasruddin Imavov and Brendan Allen in the co-main event. Great card. I did pick up a couple of rare whiskeys on my trip out to Hollywood, Florida as well. They're sitting right up here behind me. So this Heaven Hill Green to Glass was one I picked up. I actually just stopped at a Publix to use the restroom and get some snacks, popped into the liquor store, and they had that Heaven Hill there. A little bit pricey in my opinion. It's delicious. It hits all the notes that it should, but just a tad overpriced for what you're getting. And you guys know I'm a big Heaven Hill fan. Heaven Hill, of course, makes Elijah Craig and a lot of other brands that I really like. The Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond is one of my favorite whiskeys. So I'm glad I found it. I'm glad I tried it. Would not purchase it again for the price tag. So this is the Grain to Glass Kentucky Straight Bourbon. And, there's a couple of different bourbons in this line. I think there's a wheated bourbon and there's one other one, maybe a rye. 107 proof. Maybe it still needs to open up a little bit, but and again, it's excellent. It's delicious, but for the price, it doesn't really pop as much as it should. And then the other one I found that I have not cracked yet, I'm really excited about, this Old Forester single barrel rye. Never found one of these in the wild before. This is 130.7 proof. I don't know if you guys can see that, those of you on YouTube and Facebook and wherever, Spotify, wherever else you can watch the podcast on video. I know most of you are audio listeners, but Old Forester single barrel rye. Yeah, this is going to be a real slow sipper. 130.7 proof. I think this may be the highest proof whiskey I've ever owned. I may have had a Stag Junior at one point that was over 130. I can't fully remember, but yeah, as strong as it is, this thing is dark, man. Look at the color on this. Really excited to crack that one open. So had some good luck whiskey hunting on my little road trip over the weekend. So that's that, man. I just got I've got a lot of things coming up. Like I said, next weekend, Saturday the 28th, I'll be doing play-by-play commentary for Sunset Fight Promotions. So if you are interested in hearing me do play-by-play commentary, then go ahead and subscribe to them on YouTube. I believe the event will be behind a paywall, so you'll have to pay a couple of bucks. If you live in the area, you can come catch the show live as well. There's going to be 2 WBC regional titles on the line in the main event and co-main event. So that's an exciting thing. Amateur Muay Thai. The last event was amazing. The fights were so good. I mean, the amateur level has gotten so much better than when I was coming up in Muay Thai and in MMA. Amateurs looked like amateurs when I was starting out. And now, they look just as professional as the pros. They just don't get paid. So anyway, that's going to be fun. And then the following day is going to be the Muay Thai Development League, which is basically a day of Muay Thai exhibitions. I have one of my fighters that I coach is going to be competing in that. And once he's done competing, I will be refereeing in that. So next weekend I'll be doing commentary, and then the next day I'll be refereeing Muay Thai. So it's going to be a weekend filled with Muay Thai, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it all. So busy weekend though. Friday night I'll have to go to the weigh-ins for Sunset Fight Promotions, interview, do my fighter meetings, interview the fighters, and commentary on Saturday, and then the Muay Thai Development League on Sunday. It's going to be a busy weekend of Muay Thai, and I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see. All right. I'll bring this up before we wrap it up here. John Dong says, what do you think the funniest moments in the octagon are? Marab kissing Sean has to be high on the list. Yeah, I mean, it was funny, but not laugh out loud funny. It was more awkward funny. As far as funniest moments in the octagon, for me, one that always will stand out is Randy Couture and Tito Ortiz. And Tito tries to dive for a leg lock kind of late in the fight in desperation. I think he was going for a knee bar. And Randy just kind of pats him on the butt and spanks him. And it was so demoralizing, but so funny at the same time. Because I remember when he did it, I was like, oh no, he's going for a leg lock. He's just beating the shit out of him for the whole fight. He's going to lose it all here. And, Randy just pats him on the butt. And, yeah, that was definitely a funny one. What other funny moments happened inside the octagon? Trying to think. Probably Nick Diaz lying down on the ground against Anderson Silva. That was a funny one. And then I remember when Nate Quarry, I don't know if you guys remember Nate Quarry from season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter. He was fighting Caleb Starnes, and Starnes kept running away from him. So then Nate Quarry just started mocking him in the octagon because there was nothing, like he couldn't catch the guy to hit him, and the guy was not engaging. So Nate just kind of made fun of him. So that was a good one. John says that when Corey Sandhagen's reaction when one of the judges scored it for Cheeto was pretty funny. Well, that happened inside the octagon, so that meets your criteria. I'm sure I could think of a few more if I sat down and really tried to remember it. Matt Hughes versus Carlos Newton, where Matt Hughes slam KO'd Carlos Newton, but also kind of knocked himself unconscious. And it was kind of like a Rocky 2 moment where, Matt Hughes came to first. So that was kind of funny. That's all I got. And I think we're going to wrap it up here. I was planning to just do like a 20-30 minute episode, but I just kept on going. So I appreciate all the comments in the chat, keeping things going, even though some of them got a little bit negative, but that's to be expected. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and enjoy a weekend off of MMA. I know I will be. I'll be enjoying some time with my family. Looking forward to that. And that's all I got. So until next time, cheers everybody. Goodbye.